At the beginning it was this, then this, evolved into this, after a while this, then this, and this one. The first wireless controller coming with the console. Wireless controllers were attempted much earlier, but they didn't become a standard. Then it was this, and after that, it was nothing like before. At the beginning, everything was wired. It didn't matter if it was a keyboard, a mouse, a joystick, or a controller. Even though the concept is much older, it became widely popular with the 7th generation consoles. While Microsoft started this feature using AA battery, and everything was as we expected, Sony started by using the concept of having a rechargeable battery included, but without the option of replacing it, at least not without service. So if replacing battery in a traditional way was kid stuff, with rechargeable batteries somehow became even easier, but from time to time we had to plug the cord so we could recharge the controller. Then it didn't take much until brands started to manufacture various charging docks for various controllers. Made by the same company or not, is not about a particular charging dock, but about docks in general. Do we need them? Are they any good? Or do we have benefits of using them? Well, let's find out. Recharging the controller using the cable may be annoying due to multiple reasons. If we're out of battery while playing, we'd have to plug the cable so the controller could charge. This turns our controller into a wired one, and that's not what we may want. Putting our controller in a charging dock won't solve anything, because that way we can't even play at all. Then it's a matter of aesthetics. Charging two controllers using the cable can turn the whole setup into a mess. But having both controllers charging into a dock can look very sleek and nice. And another thing would be the charging port. With USB-C things are getting better, as this port is more solid than previous. But regarding micro USB, there were lots of complaints about getting damaged, and replacing such ports for some people became a common issue. Getting back to PS3, which was on mini USB, most charging docks came with such adapters. So we plug it and will remain there for the whole time, even while playing. This adapter is meant to not disturb our gaming experience, but only to make the controller to simple plug and charge. This way, when we're off playing, we simply put the controller in its charging dock and will simply charge, without worrying we'll ever break the mini USB port. Such charging docks are connected directly to a power outlet, so we can put the charging dock anywhere we want in our house, even far from the console itself. There are also charging docks with stands included, where we can keep our console and also store our controllers and let them charge. This feature is already common on most consoles, no matter their generation. With PlayStation 4, things became a bit more complex. They included two more inputs at the bottom between the handles. Here we can find a jack input and another one supposed for multiple functions. Later on was proved for what that input was meant to be, but initially, at least, could be used for charging. The benefits of using this port for charging is because firstly, seems to be a bit more solid than micro USB, so this way we can keep that port only for syncing with the console, then because it looks better while charging, without being upside down. While the original PS4 charging dock simply does what's supposed to. Some aftermarket charging docks also features LED indicators about the charging state of our controllers. Even though USB Type-C is not so prone to damage, PS5 DualSense features the same port between the handles, so the charging dock can use this feature and the controller can be in a more natural pose. This way definitely looks awesome. What I noticed is that when I use the PS5 charging dock connected to the console USB port, the charging is extremely slow, and when I'm saying slow, I mean extremely slow. It takes about 12 hours, even more, to fully recharge my controller. I can use a power brick and the recharging time is a lot faster, let's say a couple hours. But the charging dock didn't come with any power brick, so this is optional. I'm actually wondered why it takes so long, and while leaving my controller to only charging, it takes so many hours. Considering if I'm recharging it through USB cable while playing, it takes only a few hours, and I'm using it. When it's about Nintendo Switch, because the Pro Controller doesn't have any other inputs than USB Type-C, we can only rely on adapters, same as on previous generation consoles. This adapter works as intended and fits perfectly with the original Pro Controller. But I wondered if it works with an aftermarket controller. And it does. It works perfectly fine, but it's clear the adapter was meant for the original controller and it doesn't fit as great. This adapter is pretty much different than those I have for PlayStation 3. It makes the controller looking bulky and pretty ugly. However, it fits the purpose, and while playing, it's decent. On the same charging dock, we can also recharge 2 Joy-Cons. This can be extremely useful, especially when we used to play games where Joy-Cons needs to be detached, such as Mario Party. It's extremely annoying to permanently plug and unplug the Joy-Cons on the main unit only for recharging. So having such charging dock, we can never worry about that. And we can simply put those Joy-Cons for charging, letting the main unit to lay in its own dock. When it's about Xbox, the story becomes different. Because Xbox controller doesn't use internal battery. There is no such need for recharging, so you won't need a charging dock. But because some people doesn't like to replace the battery from time to time, there came some alternatives. For example, we can put this kind of battery which doesn't need to be replaced, but rather needs to be recharged. There are various kinds of such batteries. Some of them can be recharged using a cable, and some of them can be recharged by putting the controller into a charging dock. With such battery pack, we can no longer worry about replacing anything, but simply recharge while we're not using the controller. Now getting to a conclusion, are those charging docks useful? Well, it very much depends, but mostly no. I remember at the time when the PS3 was the big thing, I relied on the charging dock. If you do casual gaming and you have a backup controller, it's good to keep them all in one place, and once one of them needs recharging, you can simply put it there and grab the other one to continue playing. This way they're organized, they look great, and they're all the time charged for casual gaming. If you're a hardcore gamer spending many hours a day playing and you rely on one single controller, then this is definitely not an option. It may look awesome while not playing, but what's the point? Well, yes, it looks better, and they're more organized without laying all around, but it's not much practical without having a backup controller. The fact we can recharge while playing is the main big deal, even though the controller becomes wired, but having to stop playing and wait for it to recharge doesn't sound like a great deal. Unfortunately, recharging while playing is not an option for Nintendo Joy-Cons, at least not in games that requires them to be detached, but we have this feature on Pro Controller. And regarding Xbox, while replacing the battery, it's only a matter of seconds, so I would say this feature makes such controller the best of them all. Everything you need is only to have some battery replacements, then your controller never has to stop. Laying in a charging dock, or to become wired, what could be better? Considering all this, using a charging dock for an Xbox controller makes no sense to me. In few words, yes, such charging docks are great, especially for casual gaming and mostly when we have a backup controller. Otherwise, no. And for Xbox from 360 to One and Series controller, it's even less needed. Do you have such charging docks? Do you find them useful? Hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.